Hello and welcome to this webinar today where we are reporting on clean tech water. I have the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Peter Voigt, who's going to walk us through the Q4 shareholder update for the company, give us a bit of a view on current activities and the outlook for what's coming ahead. Hello, Peter. Welcome.
Hello, Peter, and thank you very much for the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the company. And good morning to everyone else, and thanks for joining us. I'm Peter Voigt, and CEO of Clean Tech Water. And this is our update for the June quarter, the fourth quarter of financial year 26. I've really been looking forward to this webinar, actually, because for several years now, we've been telling you what the business would look like when the model started working. Recurring revenue, reference plans, major markets, a balance sheet that funds growth. And this quarter, all three showed up at once. So we saw our first recurring revenue stream was secured, our first European reference plant was validated, and our cash position that's now strengthened for 3 consecutive quarters. So we've got two firsts here, and I think we've also got a trend line. But now let me take you through them. Okay, Pete, next slide. So before we begin, the usual cautionary statement. Some of what I say will be forward-looking, so read that first slide in conjunction with our filings and have a look at the June quarterly alongside it, and the Appendix 4C, which we put out on the 27th of July. So I'm not going to read any of it, but take it as read. So now we're up to our financial performance. So let's start with the numbers, because this quarter, the numbers are really the story. So before you do anything, have a look at the shape of the chart before you look at the figures. There's 3 measures here. We've got our receipts, we've got our reserves, and our operating cash flow. All of them stepping up quarter by quarter. That shape is a result of disciplined delivery when it reaches the balance sheet. So the first one, the operating cash flow. We've generated 1.75 million of positive operating cash. This is our second consecutive positive quarter, and it's up 59% on the March quarter. One positive quarter, it can be timing, we've seen that before, but 2 in a row and growing, well, that's a pattern. So let's hope that pattern then keeps going, because that's what we're looking for. The second one's our customer receipts, 6.4 million for the quarter, which was up 45% quarter on quarter. And that's the third consecutive quarter of growth. That's cash coming in the door because projects are being delivered on time and on budget. And we all know with satisfied customers, they pay promptly and they come back. It's important. The third over there is our balance sheet. And we closed the quarter with 8.7 million in cash, which was up 28%. Again, a third consecutive quarter of growth. The significance of that is pretty simple. It means we can fund the opportunities in front of us from a position of confidence. So that disciplined execution has brought us to this position, and we intend to keep it up. So next slide, Pete.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, thanks. So let's talk about what we're doing and executing across the business. So this is the operational side. So firstly, I'd ask you to see these 4 highlights, not really as a list, but as a life cycle. So every technology company like us in our sector has to do 4 things really well. They've got to look for new solutions. They've got to win first deployments. They've got to execute contracts. And then they have to prove their performance in the field. So in most quarters, you'd advance 1 or 2 of these particular aspects. On this quarter, we've delivered on all 4 and simultaneously. So in the development quadrant on your top left there, let's have a look at that. That's the first phase of engineering revisions for Sunrise Energy Metals, resin pulp and refinery is now complete. That work and the feed phase which follows directly supports Sunrise investment readiness and its pathway to a final investment decision. And of course, we're well entrenched in that particular program of works. In the growth quadrant on the top right in there, we've got our first awarded contract, our first commercial ATA tailings dewatering plant contract at the RASP Broken Hill mine. And just after the quarter end in July, we also secured the long-term polymer agreement that goes with it. So let's hang on to that thought. So on the next slide, I'll show you why that agreement is probably one of the most important documents we're signing this year. Let's go down now to the execution quadrant. And in there, we have 2 major projects which are deep in delivery phase. the Rincon project in Argentina, which is the largest project we're implementing today. And we're through to procurement and manufacture of our MBIX hardness removal plant for Rio Tinto's lithium project. It's well advanced, and the delivery of our manufacturing modules is starting next month. The Near-Star Decelix project has moved from detailed design, into procurement and manufacturing ahead of delivery later on this year. So those two customers, the contracts from those two customers are where the receipts are coming from, and that execution is converting into our positive cash flow. And in the last quadrant down there, the validation side, I've put in that one, the phosphate removal plant in Ireland, where we've just finished our commissioning phase with exceptional results. So that plant is now our reference for Europe. It's in a market where the regulations are tightening and the need is genuinely urgent. So we've got this develop, win, deliver, prove mantra. These 4 stages of the life cycle have all been firing in a single quarter, and we tend to keep the engine going, running on those 4 cylinders. I'm really proud of the breadth that the team has shown over the past 6 months, and this is really an exceptional outcome we have here. So slide 5, Pete, next one. So let me just talk about 2 achievements that tell the story of our moving strategy. I think we can see it in these 2 slides. So the first is the ATA project, where the RAS mine contract commercialises the platform, the ATA platform. But that contract of the delivery of the equipment is only half of the story. The polymer supply agreement we signed in July is the other half. And frankly, that's the more important half. It gives us that recurring reagent and license revenue and a 5-year term, which is extendable to 20. And why does that matter so much? Because for the first time in the company's history, we can say the revenue doesn't stop when the project finishes. Every ATA plant we deploy from here on in is not just a sale, it carries an ongoing revenue stream behind it. And that starts to change, shall we say, the shape of our business model. And the customers, they're all established, producing mines, and that type of independent validation is you just can't buy. Second is the PhosFix project, and the Enver plant is our first full-scale PhosFix plant. And this plant just didn't pass performance testing. It met or exceeded every contractual target. The phosphate removal we got from the plant is 10 times better than that was required. And so we're producing an output of 0.1 milligrams per litre and a throughput that's well above the design capacity. So here's the context that makes that result so valuable. Because Europe is really tightening its phosphate discharge across the continent. And operators want proven answers, not just promises. We now have one full-scale commercial and operating plant sitting in the middle of that market. And so that's now becoming the launch pad to our European engagement strategy. So what we see here is one platform commercialised, one platform validated. Both point at large, regulation-driven markets. And so that's the setup of what's to come over the next few years. Next one, Pete. So where does that really take us? So this slide is kind of a bit of a relay. What we've delivered, what we have in hand, and then the leg after that. So I'll just repeat, Enver PhosFix complete, performance validated. ATA RAS contract and polymer supply agreement in the bag. And the Go to Lithium DLE pilot plant is meeting all its KPIs from our customers. And so we have opportunities now opening up behind that. Between now and December, the theme is really about delivery. So the ATA RAS construction with completion targeted for 3rd quarter of FY27, Rincon manufacturing and site delivery, Near-Star equipment delivery and installation, European piloting of PhosFix, the Sunrise Energy Metal Feed study, and engineering of ATA and MBIX for Aura Energy's uranium project DFS, which is coming up. That's a lot of work, we understand that, but we're operating now in a very, shall we say, good way and delivering as we should what our customers' needs look like. And into 2027, I think this compounding then really begins. So the recurring money that's coming from the ATA side, the license revenue switches on when we commission that plant. The Near commissions in early 2027, and we're also targeting a semi-commercial DLE deployment. The Sunrise FID decision's on its way. Project pathway and conversion of the European phosphorus pipeline is also on its way. So I think you can see the pattern, because this pattern is deliberate. Every project we deliver becomes a reference. Every reference opens up a market. And underneath all that, the recurring revenue base builds. This is the flywheel we've been constructing over the past 3 years. And in this quarter, that flywheel has started to turn. Next slide, please, Pete. So just let me go back to where we started. So 2 firsts in a trend line, our first recurring revenue stream secured, our first European reference plant validated, exceptional results, cash flow receipts and reserves, all growing quarter on quarter. The business executing well, and the catalysts ahead are defined. The model is beginning to do what we designed it to do. So we really want to thank you for your support. I hope you see the positives that we're delivering, and I think the future holds very well. But I'm happy to take your questions. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, Peter. An excellent quarter, some great achievements there and milestones, and certainly the future's looking bright, as you've shown there in that presentation, which is pretty comprehensive. We have some questions here. First of all, can you touch on the expected timeline for the Sunrise Energy project?
Again, I think people asked me this last time, and I said, I think that's got to come from Sunrise, not from CleanTeQ. So all I can say is that we're well and truly in the engineering phase. The feed is coming up, and so we're looking at late 27, 28, and it'll be all guns firing, I think.
There's a lot of focus on that, and some good information recently out on the scandium outlook too, which is pretty solid.
That's absolutely solid, and there's a lot going on in the background, and it's certainly keeping our engineers here busy. We're well and truly in the centre of what's happening at Sunrise with respect to the resin pulp process and also the refinery. So it's big, and who knows, Sunrise may get even bigger with respect to the tonnage that needs to go through it.
Thanks, Peter. Next question is, can you talk about any discussions you're having with European partners, if any, or talk to the opportunity in Europe, which has been highlighted by the Ireland and the Near projects? Look,
we're talking to 3 or 4 majors at the moment over there in Europe. We're not at liberty to disclose the names at the moment. I think you'll find maybe in the next couple of months we'll be a little bit more transparent about what we're doing there, and happy to talk to it probably at my next webinar.
Thanks, Peter. Are there any other mine studies, for example, Anglo American or Cerro de Paso, that TeQ is involved with regarding ATA?
Yes, there are. Some of the others that we're dealing with, again, names are a little hard to mention, but typically we're also talking with, say, internally with Ivan Platts on their mine in Africa around filtered tailings, and yes, we are talking with some in South America on filtered tailings. So in the background, we have to go through our little life cycle that we talked about just there. And generally, we don't really say a lot in the first phases, right? We're under NDAs and things like this in those first phases. As soon as things start to become, well, shall we say, much more on the commercial side, then that's when we generally are allowed to start talking about them. But look, we're a bit like the duck, up the top, might look all calm and that, but underneath we are paddling like crazy on many of these projects. We're getting lots of inbound inquiry now. But we want to pick our targets. We can't be everything to everyone. We are of a size that does limit our ability to deliver, and we want to deliver really well to our customers so that our growth does, shall we say, accelerate in the next 2 years.
And Peter, as you say, you can't be all things to all parties, and there are a lot of opportunities in the world, and therefore your partnerships with the engineering firms that put together the flow sheets for many of these large projects is crucial. Can you talk a little bit about those sort of partnerships and the relationships you have with those sorts of firms?
Well, we are look when you have relationships with those engineering firms, they really do, shall we say, need to keep their independence. So the relationships you have generally are as a technology provider, and we are well and truly in discussions with several of the larger engineering firms around our engineering and how we can get our technology into the first phases of their developments. And that's typical, say, for instance, with, say, Aura Energy, where we're doing work with them, embedding our ATA and MBIX technologies into the first phases of their development. So we are definitely pushing really hard in that area. Yes.
There's some good achievement over the last quarter, outstanding actually, and so much on the horizon. What are a couple of the key things for shareholders to take focus on over the next quarter for you? What's your main focus that you think is going to be the milestones for the company?
Like I said, I think that we're well and truly now into a delivery phase mode, and we definitely have to get the Rincon project and the Near Star projects up and operating. So from the point of view of every day today, that's what we're really concentrating on. Looking forward into the future, we're really standing up a decent revenue line for FY28, and we want to make sure that all the developments that we've got in place behind that revenue line are solid. So that's probably our two major things to do for the second half of this year.
All right, then, Peter, thank you for your time today. Thank you for everybody who's joined us this morning, and we look forward to bringing you further news over the coming weeks and months. Thanks very much, Peter.
Thank you.